For years, I had my best friend tell me that I should read the book Essentialism. While it took me years to finally read it, they had a good reason for saying so, because at the beginning they said, this is basically stuff you preach all the time. However, there was one thing in there that completely effed up my world, and wish I would have read it a lot sooner. And it's the graphic I'm going to show you on screen right now. So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to define basically what this graphic means for your life. We're going to talk about exactly what the author says about it. And then we're going to go into a system you might have heard of, might not have heard of how you can use this image to execute exactly what you want to do, so you can transition from your current state where you're doing too much to a higher leverage state where you're doing exactly what you want and earning as you want. And if you don't know who I am or why the hell you should listen to me, my name is Colby Wechter. I have been in the digital marketing space for 13 years, 9 of which I was a global top 1,000 agency owner, but I burnt out a couple of times working 70-hour weeks, and we were stuck at $1 million a year. 2 years after my second burnout, we had hit 2.5 million a year, and I was only working 8 hours a week. And now I help other agency owners do the same, because unfortunately, burnout's a huge problem in this country. Now, let's dive into this graphic. Basically, what we're looking at here is 2 circles, right? This circle on the left has energy, and then it has all of these different arrows pointing out, and then the circle on the right has energy and 1 arrow pointing upwards. So what do these 2 things mean? Essentially, you are the person on the left right now. You are doing too many things. You're thinking about diversifying your income. You're saying yes to things you don't actually care about. You have more tasks than you can cross off, and those tasks only keep getting added to, right? So let's actually hear what the author of Essentialism, Greg McKeown, talks about this. He says, in both images, the same amount of energy is exerted. In the image on the left, the energy is divided into many different activities. The result is that we have the unfulfilling experience of making a millimeter of progress in a million directions. In the image on the right, the energy is given to fewer activities. The result is that by investing in fewer things, we have the satisfying experience of making significant progress in things that matter most. And so, just my own words, basically, if you're saying yes to too many things, you are gaining progress, but none of it actually feels like what I would call momentum. Progress is not momentum. Momentum is something that you feels like you're on this flywheel that just keeps getting better and better and better as you go. Progress might mean the whole I'm inching forward, but it doesn't really feel that good. And the author continues. He says, the way of the essentialist means living by design, not by default. Instead of making choices reactively, the essentialist deliberately distinguishes the vital few from the trivial many, eliminates the non-essentials, and then removes obstacles so the essential things have clear, smooth passage. So, quite simply, is that if we're saying yes to too many things, we are giving equal weight to all those things. And this is something I do with my clients. It's one of the first things we do when they come into the actual program is we look at their calendar. And it may seem trivial, but when we look at everyone's calendar, they all have the same problem. It's one color, and we have no idea where the leverage is. So I actually ask them, I say, what are the high leverage activities here? And they kind of wonder what I mean. I say, tell me where you're moving the needle most. They look at one wall of color, they have no idea. This isn't necessarily they're a low leverage problem. It's I don't have the data to know if I'm a low leverage or high leverage person. And so we simply color code it. I call it calendar curation. We do blue for the meetings. We do red for stuff you hate or have to do. We do green for personal items, and we do yellow for needle movers. Now, when they inevitably do this, they'll find a lot of blue and red. They have too many meetings that don't matter, and they have a ton of tasks or stuff they don't want to do, and they have very little yellow and green, which is needle moving and personal activities to want to be able to sustain a business. You might want to enjoy it a little bit. They have very few of these things. And so simply by knowing the data, they can actually start making changes. And so they start becoming an essentialist simply by understanding what is vital and what is trivial. And that's just one exercise, but it's a big one. So now let's talk about an actual system. You can do that calendar system, but here's another one that I have found super, super helpful. And anyone I've ever shared it with who's heard it for the first time, they're like, damn, that makes a lot of sense. And it's basically the 5-25 rule, which is attributed to Warren Buffett. And when you look at the 5-25 rule, really what we're talking about is 3 steps. Step 1 is you're going to put down the top 25 objectives or goals you want to hit in your professional career. And so whether that's make $1 million a month, or whether that is become a CEO of my own company, or whether it is to be top 1% in my industry, doesn't matter what it is. And don't limit yourself. Write your list of 25 things. They could be as smart as possible, as in specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound, so you want to make sure you actually have something to hit, but let's not overextend ourselves or make this a reason not to do it by trying to get it too perfect. Just list 25 objectives that would make you feel amazing. Step 2 is you're going to choose your top 5. You literally go in the list, you look at it again, and then you look at the 5 that you most want to accomplish. So you're going to circle these top 5, and they're going to be your high priority goals. They're going to be the ones most important to dedicating your time, your energy, or your money to accomplish. And now we're on step 3. You've circled your top 5, you know those are going to fulfill you. The other 20, what happens to them? They now become your avoid at all costs list. So all these 25 possible things, you know and I know that you're not going to be able to accomplish all of them. But the more you try and do, the more you're going to have a millimeter of progress in a bunch of different directions instead of a mile of progress in one direction, momentum. And so if you try and do all 25, you're not going to accomplish any. I would even argue that 5 is a lot, but at the minimum, if you circle your top 5, the other 20 are avoid at all costs, because they will keep you from moving the needle on those 5 most important high priority items. So basically kind of combining these two things, the essentialism graphic where you have different energy pointing in all directions or energy pointing in one direction, and then the 5-25 rule from Warren Buffett, when you combine these two things, what they do is they focus you up. They don't dilute your goals, they don't dilute your actions. They turn you from a low leverage doer, I'm checking a bunch of things off my list, to a high leverage visionary leader of your own life. And if you want to continue to grow a business and you want it to feel good, you need to become more and more high leverage, because anyone you hire, even if it's a contractor and they only work for you part-time, is going to take example from how you personally behave. And so if you say yes to everything and are distracted by a bunch of shiny objects, they're gonna do the same thing. And you wonder why your business feels clunky or takes too much work, or simply is just nobody's getting it. It's not their fault, it's yours. So I hope this video helps, because focus is the most important resource of our time. If you don't have focus, you're just gonna be stuck moving a millimeter in a bunch of different directions instead of miles in one direction that serves your purpose, impacts the world, and hits your potential. So I hope this video helps. If you're interested in deep diving on this a little bit more, this is actually a post from one of my newsletters that I publish twice a week. You can find that link down in the description below. But this has been a blast. Can't wait to see you in the next one.